Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome to Full-Time Review. It is presented by Amazon Business. I'm your host, Jillian Sakovits. What a show we have for you today. We're going to be breaking down the U.S. women's national team's 3-0 victory over China and Naomi Girma's triumphant return to international soccer. We'll be getting to the heart of why defender Girma is so important to the U.S. and head coach Emma Hayes. To do that, I'm going to be joined by the Athletic senior writer Jeff Rueter, who was in St. Paul, Minnesota to experience that dominant victory for the United States. Time now to welcome in Jeff. Jeff, first off, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, it's becoming almost an annual thing where the women's national team comes through St. Paul, and it's crazy because this is not a place that teams used to go through, especially the national teams. So it's still coming down from a lot of that, like, you know, it's mixed zones, it's day before, it's press conferences 4 days in advance, stuff like that. But yeah, happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Allianz Field will change that. What was the atmosphere like on Saturday night before we dive into everything?
Yeah, it was good, but it was different, I would say. It wasn't a full house. And I think that in the past, you've seen Allianz Field always sell out, right? When the women's national team comes by. And they've had some meaningful games here. They had Carly Lloyd's final match as a member of the women's national team was in St. Paul. Lily Johannes' debut last spring as well, which that wasn't like a big spectacle ahead of time that she would debut. But at the same point, you know, I think that it was in the build up to the Olympics, right? And so there is just intrigue about this team, and you're seeing kind of the back half of Twyla Kilgore, and I think it was actually the first camp for Emma Hayes at that time as well. So this one, by comparison, didn't quite have the same verve in the build-up, but the atmosphere was really strong. Like, you could hear it when Lynn Biondolo and especially Lo LaBonta checked in. Like, they've got their fans. There were people who came up from Kansas City to support her. Her dad was there. And it was just like a really good sort of like confident, we're enjoying this. You didn't feel tension from the crowd at any point of that game. I'll put it that way.
And there's one player in particular, you know, it's funny to say that all of the unknowns are the ones I think ahead of this camp who have gotten so much of the attention. You know, heading into this, it was 13 players with 5 or less caps. But Jeff, You wrote a brilliant article, and you should check it out on The Athletic, titled "The U.S. Women's National Team Basks in the Return of Naomi Girma." Their, quote, security blanket. Such a brilliant way to put it. Yeah. What is it that makes Naomi Girma so important to this team?
Like that quote, the security blanket credit to Sam Coffey there, who takes time after scoring her second goal, both of which have now come against China, for the women's national team, going ahead and also like really praising what it means to have Naomi Girma back. And you can really see it. I mean, like there's a lot in terms of just like leadership and upgrades over like some of these 5 caps or fewer alternatives at center back who've been rotated, and just familiarity and comfort, right? But I think the thing that really makes her, in my opinion, the most important player in Emma Hayes' U.S. women's national team at present, including, you know, Triple Espresso, I think the most important thing is she is the epicenter of possession for them, which means that she's taking the most touches, she's attempting the most passes. When the ball goes to the back, it isn't going to the goalkeeper, which you'll see with a lot of teams. Instead, it's staying with Girma, and Girma is trusted to kind of shuttle to her left and to her right, survey passing lanes, look at the build-up 2-3 lines ahead, and then decide this is our avenue, right? And she's gotten very, very good at that at a young age. There's no comparable player like that in this pool right now. So even if you do have, like if Tierna Davidson was healthy, and if you had Tara McCone, or if you had Emily Sonnet, whoever else partnering, neither of them really quite have that same sort of confidence when they are used to such an extent in possession. And the flip side of that is opposing teams will game plan obviously for strikers, right? They'll game plan for attacking midfielders. The midfield will know who their midfield assignments are. Fullbacks will seek each other out if they start to advance past the midway line. No one really games plan for center backs in the same way. You'll hear about it on set pieces, like if you play against France, Wendy Renard, that's going to be like a thing that you have to watch for when Wendy Renard plays for France, of course, right? But like, I think you don't really see that as much, where unless you have a striker who is truly going to be pressing every single time Girma gets the ball, which China was not doing, which very few opponents have done when they played against Naomi Girma, it just makes her so invaluable to how everything else in this team does. It takes pressure off Fallon Tullis-Joyce, who isn't playing in sort of a play out the back system with Manchester United, where she doesn't have to be logging 3 times as many touches as she's used to with her club. It helps players like Sonnet and then Avery Patterson, who is playing at right back, with that sort of peace of mind that, yeah, you'll get the ball a lot, but you'll get it when the time is right. So everything just looked more natural. And we're not even talking about her defending, because she's the best center back in the world. Like, obviously there's security blanket status, like Sam Coffey was saying, in that respect.
Right, of course. And with that title also came a lot of pressure this year when she became the first ever $1 million transfer in women's soccer history. So for those of you who don't remember, that is what Girma's also carrying with her. But you had a quote in your article, Jeff, that I loved so much. It said, "I can't even put into words what she means to me," coming from Sam Coffey, who used the word security blanket. But also, I think everybody sees it on the field, but off the field as well. She's just a joy in this environment, such a light for us. We've missed her so much. I thought she was exceptional today, as always. So you spoke a lot about on the field, but what do you think Girma means to this squad in terms of what Hayes is looking to accomplish when she says, "I'm going to have my core group by June"? And we are, Jeff, at the start of June. It's June.
Yeah, already is. Yeah, but when you see off the field, she's such a positive presence. And it's not necessarily like, doing the celebrations or whatever, like you associate with Lo LaBonta in Kansas City, right? In particular, it's more of just that sort of calm, like, "Hey, I'm so glad you're here. Come on into the team. I know it's your first camp. I'm Naomi. Let me get you to meet everyone else." And at the same point, this is the player who is now playing at one of the biggest clubs of any player in this group. And so to have someone with that sort of approachability and that sort of like confidence and warmth at a young age, who is also now able to say, like, yes, I have achieved a lot in my own career already. An Olympic gold medalist, a WSL champion, an NWSL Shield winner with San Diego as well. Stanford obviously did quite well. So there's just that sort of like, yeah, if you're here, we're going to win, or we have a much better chance of winning at a bare minimum. And I think that's a sort of thing that when you talk to anyone around the U.S. women's national team at this point, they're just like, yeah, she's the future captain. Like, like Lindsay Heaps is doing a really good job. So there's no rush to like take the armband off of her. But given the age difference and, I think I don't even want to date it at this point, but I know that it's over half a decade of age difference in between. There's a certain point where you have to start looking at a succession plan. And sure enough, when Lindsay Heaps exited in the 77th minute on Saturday, it was Naomi Girma who wore the armband. And so you can start to see that she really is one of those leaders in this group. And that just only highlights her importance even further.
Girma, after, of course, a handful of seasons with the San Diego Wave, is now over in England at Chelsea. You mentioned Lo LaBonta. I wanted to ask you about her. Whether you're from Kansas City, you make the drive up north to Minnesota, she's just somebody that everybody roots for. What really stood out to you when she got that opportunity to get that first cap and come on as a sub?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about it with her after the game, and she was just like, you just kind of need that first touch. Like, you need to get on the ball and be like, yeah, it's the same size ball. It moves the same way. It rolls. You can kick it. You can dribble it. You can do all sorts of fun stuff with it. It's great. So, like, once that sort of first touch comes in and she's able to just play it right back to her center back and it goes well, she's 100% pass completion on her first attempt, then she just looked confident. She looked comfortable. Like, her movement was very proactive, which is what you want to see from a midfielder who's checking in off the bench, right? You don't want to see a midfielder who's not running harder than the players who have played for like 70 more minutes than them, right? So she obviously still has that. She also had the sort of positional savviness. There were a couple of times where China was really trying to find a way back into the final third, and try to threaten the United States and try to reclaim something from this game. And she was really good with her screening, with her positioning, with working with Sam Coffey to be able to get the balance right in terms of who was where. And it looked really natural, I think I will say, especially for a player who obviously has not been part of this broader core, because we're not even just talking about, like, obviously, like the 2024 Olympic squad or the 23 Women's World Cup. We're talking about players who have been called in by Twyla Kilgore and Emma Hayes over the last year and a half period, and who at least have been in the camp to kind of know what they're trying to build towards and where they were 5 camps ago, whatever. It really, really helps to have that sort of mental awareness that she brings to this game. And also, again, just the vibes, positivity, happiness, joy, gratitude as well, right? Like, she's not coming in like, why weren't you calling me all these years ago? Like, I should have been here 5 years ago or anything like that. No, it was just a very good addition to this group of players who is still pretty young and doesn't have as many of those veteran leaders. So really, really good addition, I would say, at this point on the field and off.
Lo LaBonta, at 32 years old, officially now the oldest debutante ever for the U.S. women's national team. Jeff, and you mentioned all the kind of positivity around Lo LaBonta. For me, it was best summarized in the picture that came from her account and the U.S. women's national team account. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on Instagram. Like, she's just cheesing so, like, her mouth is exploding out of her face, and she has up so nicely a number one. Like, this is it.
Oh, yeah.
First cap, so excited. So that was a really big positive for me to see Lo LaBonta. Tuesday against Jamaica in St. Louis, the home of MLS squad, St. Louis City. Who is someone, Jeff, that people should be keeping their eyes on that maybe is flying under the radar right now?
Yeah, I would say that I was really impressed on Saturday by the right-sided connection of Avery Patterson and Michelle Cooper. And these are two players who aren't really talked about terribly often when you're like trying to project 2027 squads, right? But I think, especially if you look at right back, we'll start with Avery Patterson here. She looked really good in combination with Naomi Girma, which is going to be really important. Obviously, you need to have good connections with the most important player on a team, right? But also her movement, her ability to work with the midfield. She had some really good give and goes with Lily Johannes, I saw, that allowed Lily to progress past maybe like two converging defenders, which is a really good sign. And defensively, she didn't like leave her position and then, leave the team vulnerable often. So that was a really good sign. Michelle Cooper, tireless, great motor, really good at sending in that sort of like looping cross, like kind of a low to medium height cross that'll be able to find feet rather than to find a forehead, which I think is just really valuable to have. And just really selfless as well, but still has that sort of eye for like, hey, if this is my opportunity, I'm going to take it too. She hasn't been as consistent with her minutes this year. I think that she's had a couple of injuries, so we'll see how she works into it. And she only played 27 minutes in her last NWSL game against Chicago. Maybe there's a chance she'll get rotated out for Emma Sears or Ali Sentner, both of whom I think should also be kind of watched, especially Ali Sentner. It just continues to be a question, where is she going to fit into an Emma Hayes system? Is it going to be on the left, on the right, central, tucking a little closer to midfield, kind of like the Lindsay Heaps role, if you will, where it's more of a second striker than a true playmaking number 10. But it's fun. I mean, like, we're still got a lot of those young players where you look and you're like, yeah, that could fit. I think Avery Patterson absolutely could be the backup right back for Emily Fox this cycle. And I think that that's a really good sort of revelation to take from this camp.
It is fun. It is fun. All right, Jeff, before I let you go, give me one word how you are feeling about the U.S. women's national team.
Progressing. I would say progressing. Like, it still feels like these performances are building on top of one another. They looked a lot better than they did against Brazil. Granted, China is still a very good opponent, top 16-ish in the world, but, not quite in as good a form as Brazil was when they played under Japan in the She Believes Cup. But the U.S. was in full control of that game, and that's the first time that I could say that in 2025. So that's a really good step.
Jeff, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Before we get out of here, in case you did not know, The Athletic has partnered with Yahoo Sports to provide free best-in-class coverage of women's sports. Go check out the Women's Sports Hub at sports.yahoo.com/women-sports. Thank you so much for listening to Full Time Review. My name is Jillian Sakovits. We'll see you soon.